God's idea of human society, to put it rather crudely, is an idea in which everybody takes responsibility for everyone else, in which everyone recognizes that if someone else is suffering or deprived, they are. Now, as the world moves towards mutually isolated silos of human experience and of wealth and poverty, that's something the Church has to challenge. And the Church, I think, has a solid base in its faith, but also a solid base in practical reality to say nobody is unaffected in the long run by what happens in our world. And the sooner we get used to that, embrace that, work with it, the better.
Friends Who's a Millionaire says that the growing gap between the really rich and the really poor is the most desperate moral question of our times. And so he wrestles with that within his world, but I think all of us have to wrestle with the inequities and think, wow, I mean, right now, 5% of the world's population is consuming almost 45% of the world's stuff. And what does it mean to love my neighbor as myself in a global family that is so dysfunctional? You know, that some people are dying because they don't even have clean water, or they don't have mosquito nets that would prevent malaria and only cost $3. So I think this gospel that we talk about, it's been said, comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable. And that's the gospel of Jesus.
Why is this important to us as Christians? This whole topic of a biblical examination of poverty and justice. Well, when we were in seminary a long time ago, as young evangelical students, we decided to try an experiment. We took a Bible. The Bible was important to us at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. We took an old Bible and we began to cut out of the Bible every single reference to the poor, to people like Burger King Mom, to widows and orphans and those whom the Bible said God cared about, the afflicted, the oppressed, those left out and left behind. All the texts about wealth and poverty, we found them all. We found several thousand verses in the Bible about the poor. In the Old Testament, it was the second most prominent theme. The first was idolatry, and the two were often connected. In the New Testament, one of every 16 verses was about the poor. In the first three synoptic Gospels, one of every 10. And in the Gospel of Luke, one of every 7 verses was on this subject of those who were left out and left behind, like that woman at the Burger King.
That's broken down. He hears the story he already knows, but he hears it again with passion, and he breaks down and he weeps and he cries. I know some of the stuff that's wrong in our cities and wrong in our villages and wrong in our provincial towns, that's wrong around our counties. I know that we actually have one of the highest records of child poverty in the whole of Europe. Do you know there's worse child poverty in the UK than there is in Romania? I know that. I know those facts. I know those statistics. I hear them all the time. I can recite them, actually. I can bore you stiff with all those statistics. I know about NEET kids, kids that are not in employment, training or education. I know how many there are in the country. I know how many black kids get stopped and searched almost every day. I know it's disproportionate. I know the number of black people that are in prison as compared to the percentage of who they actually are in society. I can tell you about how once you've been in prison, you will go back and back and back and back. I can tell you all of that stuff.
And I also think of the other account of the great judgment that Jesus gave in Matthew 25, where all of us are gathered before God and we're asked a few questions. And the questions aren't just doctrinal questions, of like evolution or creation, virgin birth, agree or disagree. But it's, when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was a stranger, did you welcome me in? When I was in prison, did you visit me? So I think that that God is wonderful and good, and I didn't come to follow Jesus because I was scared to death of hell or wanted crowns in heaven, but because Jesus is good and wonderful.